Hey everybody, I'm Eric Oberembt, and you're listening to Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. We talk about real shit, what's on our minds, and don't give a fuck if it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So sit back, strap in, and get ready for some real shit. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. I'm your host, Eric Oberembt. So checking in here again at Storm into the New Era. We're doing another episode here from Storm. The way that we do this on every beginning of every podcast, housekeeping, share this shit. I don't have sponsors. I don't ask for money. I don't ask anybody to pay me for any of this shit. I pay for it. Sponsors are fucking D&M Roofing, and then we give all our money to Roofers in Recovery. So, like, I'm fucking broke. I don't have anything left, so I need your help to share it. We need to get this to as many people as humanly possible so that hopefully somebody hears something that connects with them and helps them, and that is payment to me. So that's what I need from you. Housekeeping, share this shit. All right, so we are at Storm into the New Era in Denver, Colorado at Bronco Stadium, and I have got the honor of bringing on Graham Desert. Graham, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah, I'm super excited. You know, we have, the guest that we just had on right before you kind of have a similar conversation because we were saying, like, we know each other, but we don't know each other. We've watched each other from afar.
Right.
We know what each other's doing. We see each other at some stuff, and we get to stop and talk for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. But then it's like, fuck, I got to go do this. I got to go do this. And we don't get a chance to actually sit down. And selfishly, that was one of the reasons that I started this show. One of the reasons I started the podcast was because I knew I had access to people, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, what? This would be a really good opportunity to be able to sit down and actually get to know the person and the human that other people are like, man, I wish I could know Graham, or I wish I could know Bill, or I wish I could know so-and-so. And then we said it's a comfortable place to have uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
So we like to have an opportunity to talk about some shit that you'd maybe normally wouldn't talk about. It's a little fucking uncomfortable. It's a little bit embarrassing, right? Because that's my whole life. That's my whole story.
Yeah.
Is uncomfortable and embarrassing and jail and drugs.
I love that, dude.
Yeah.
I love the authenticity that you bring. And I think that as a leader, I think that's super important to be authentic and be real.
Right.
Talk about things that most people don't talk about. That, to me, that's the true strength of a leader.
I would 100% agree. It took me personally a very long time to find that voice, though, right? Because for so long, like, I felt like I had to kind of hide behind a wall because I needed my people or people around me to see a version of me that was a leader or was impressing them.
Yeah, and you're like caring about what other people think.
Right. You ever read the book? What is the book called? Zero Fucks Given?
No, dude, I have not read that. But it sounds like
have to.
It sounds like you wrote the book, though.
I literally had people send it to me and go, "Did you write this?" And I was like, "No, I did not." But I bought it, and it's one of the best books I've ever written because it gives you such a good insight that the best line from it is, "I only have so many fucks to give in a day."
Yeah.
So I need to choose where I give those fucks, right?
Yeah.
And so people that are offended by my language, whatever, you can put a different word in there instead of fucks, but it proves a point, right?
Yeah.
And it's aggressive and it makes you listen to the point.
It gets your attention.
Absolutely. But I only have so many fucks to give, and I'm going to choose where I'm giving those fucks.
Yeah, I had my pastor tell me, we had a conversation. We talk maybe once a week or every other week. But he was telling me, and he was talking about just leadership in general. He's like, my advice to you is to be consistent in what you do and to be authentic. Whatever you do, just be you.
Right.
Don't be anybody else. Don't try to be anybody else. Don't try to be a quote unquote influencer or copy, whatever. Just
that's the hard
yourself.
part because there's so much noise out there of like, and then what does authenticity look like?
Yeah.
Right. Because what you just said is exactly right. Don't try to be somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's all we do is we see the Ed Milet's or we see the Andy Frisellas and we're like, I want to be that guy. It's like emulate and take something.
Right. Well, the problem is we don't take the time to figure out who we are.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. 100%.
And that's like, I sat down and was writing this out, and that's the DNA of somebody is really just understanding who you are.
Yeah.
Like that's why they have 23andMe, so you can understand your lineage and where you come from and all that.
And so they
can
track you in the cyborgs comment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the other thing.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Let's not gloss over that.
Yeah. I mean, the FBI is listening.
Yes,
right now.
I know they do. Yeah, they're watching.
So that's super important, is to really understand who you are. Because what happens is, if you don't, you start to live somebody else's life.
Correct.
And what happens, going even further, a lot of business owners don't take the time to do this. So they're setting goals and they're setting a vision and they're going down paths and directions that isn't even, and then 10 years later they wake up and they're like,
right.
This isn't even who I am.
It's not even what I wanted.
It's not even what I wanted. And it's some life event happens, you know, it could be something personal, some sort of trauma happens in their life.
Yep.
And it causes them to
Yes,
think, and they're like,
somebody
wait a
dies,
second.
you get in a car accident.
You're
Yeah.
like, wait a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
I'm not living
Right.
congruent with actually who I am. I don't even know who I am. That's why they call it a midlife crisis.
Right. But don't wait. And you don't I guess the moral behind that story is you don't have to wait till the trauma.
Exactly.
Right. You don't have to wait till somebody dies. You don't have to wait until you almost, you know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
you fall off a cliff or whatever it is.
When you're confident in who you are, it radiates in everything that you do.
Yeah.
And
Again,
you
zero
stay-
fucks given.
And you stay congruent with who you are.
Yeah.
The more congruent you are, the less friction and conflict you have in your life.
Right. Because you're not fighting that other personality, if you will, right?
Yeah,
that
yeah.
other thing that's over there. Like we all have the fucking angel devil thing going on that we got to deal with, but that's something different.
Yeah, the voice.
Yeah, we still got that. Like, you know, I still drive down the road and I'm like, fuck that old lady. I want to run her off the road, right? Like, but I don't do it.
Of course not.
But man, I want to.
Yeah.
But man, I want to. But I listen to this one.
Yeah.
I listen to this one. So tell me what else you've been doing. You've had a bit of a transition here in the last couple of years.
Correct.
Right? Because you had your company was Roofing 101.
Roofing 101, yeah.
And you were in how many states?
10, I believe, 10 or 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you started that when?
2008.
2008. Okay.
Yep.
And did you have a background in that, or you just went, I'm going to be a roofer today?
Well, I had a background in construction. I started
Okay.
out as a painter. You know, I painted in high school in the summers.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
For
I
like
remember
5
those.
years or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
And then once I figured out how to do it, I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm just going to start my own painting business. So
Gotcha.
when I was 20, I started in painting. And then when I was 27 or 28, I went to do roofing sales for a local roofing
Gotcha.
contractor
Okay.
in Kansas City. Great company, but worked for them for a year, and then was like, you know what? I'm going to start my own company.
Right.
And so that's what I did.
So, and your first office
Yeah.
was in Kansas City?
Was in Kansas City.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And so then you moved out to San Diego or whatever, but you started opening offices and locations and things like that.
Correct. I mean, in my first location was actually Omaha.
Oh, really?
In 2013.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So in 2013, when that storm
Yep.
hit, I was there the next day, signed my first contract when I was there, and was like, well, I guess I'm committed.
Right.
And then so that year, it was just me and a production manager and then my crews.
Yep.
And so I would drive back and forth from Omaha and Kansas City every week. I'd drive up on Tuesday morning.
Yep.
And then drive back, on Friday
Right.
or Thursday night.
I was going to say, missing the best door knocking days on Saturday?
Yeah.
Ah,
I would knock.
oof.
I would knock and work during the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then, so I worked both markets. I did
Okay.
sales in both markets.
So you started building that and growing that 2008-ish, right? And
Yeah.
then COVID hit? Or what happened?
Oh, yeah, dude. Well, I mean, I think it's a combination of things.
Okay.
I was actually writing about this last week, and Nathan touched on it in his speech, but it's like we're all, one mistake away from getting a string of 2 to 3 more
Yeah.
that could put you out.
Sure.
And so that's essentially what happened.
Okay.
I could, you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So we decided to grow and expand. So I moved out. I left Kansas City, kept that branch operating, hired a management
Here's the
team.
reason why I want to talk about it, because people need to know the mistakes that we've made.
Oh, totally.
Right, so that they can
Yeah.
learn from ours, hopefully, because I never listened to anybody's fucking mistakes. I had to make them on my own.
Yeah.
And it was the dumbest damn thing I ever did was be
So stupid.
So
So
stupid. I wouldn't fucking listen to anybody because I thought I was smarter than everyone.
Bro.
And if I would have listened to somebody tell
Yeah.
me, don't fucking do that.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. I mean, so I'm writing this out. It's going to be about 10 to 12 pages. It'll be available for all
Yeah.
people can download it. So I'll send the link
Yep,
out.
yep.
Whatever show notes you have or whatever,
Yep.
we can post a link and
Yep.
people can get it, and then they can read up on what happened. But essentially, one of the big key mistakes was we didn't have a third-party accountability partner. You know, like a lot of times companies, you have mentors, you have coaches, you even have peer reviews. Like I remember one time going to Paul Reed's office and just sitting with him. You know, he was generous enough to donate like an hour of his time.
Yep.
And this was like 4 years ago.
Right.
5 years ago, like the first time I met him. But there's peers that you can tap into to look over your shoulder and look over your business and look at things. Or you could hire a coach, you know.
Right.
There's plenty of coaches out there that
But
will
is that
help
the
you.
third-party accountability that
That's
you're
the
talking about?
third-party accountability.
Okay.
We didn't
accountability
have
for you or for the company?
for the company.
Okay.
For the company. Because
That's not a coach.
well,
Or is it?
yeah, it could be.
Okay.
And also a board of directors.
Okay.
So like you'll get to a level where you're going to need a board of directors.
Gotcha.
There's some companies out there that
Gotcha.
you know, it would make sense.
Yeah.
You know, you're at $100 million, you're at $50 million. Where's your board of directors to help you make decisions?
Because how big were you before?
We had everything in place to be $100 million, which was the plan that next year. So
Right.
we were at like 10, 11 million
Yep.
on the cusp of moving up
Right.
very quickly.
And then that mistake, whatever that mistake was, happened, and then you just made a decision, were forced to make a decision, I assume.
Yeah. So that's one thing that we didn't do that looking back, I'm like, well, we should have had a mentor, a coach, board of directors, something looking over our shoulder to help us with our direction.
Gotcha.
The other thing that I would say is, you know, there's a lot of talk about working on the business versus working in the business. You know, and it's really important to obviously work in the business. It's also really important to work on the business.
Sure.
I frankly spent too much time working on the business. You know, we had so you have to understand the structure. So we had a CEO, we had a full executive team. We had a management team, we had recruiting staff, we had production managers, we had people, we had an accounting staff, we had all that. So we had this structure in place.
Right.
We had people that were accountable for roles and responsibilities. But what was going on was my job was to start a project, build it, get it good, and pass it off to the leader.
Sure.
And then work on the next thing.
Yep.
You know, I was like, I don't know, you call it like the tip of the spear or whatever.
Yep.
So, you know, we started out in 2019 with a team of like 6 reps. And then at the end of 2019, we had, I think, 52, 53 sales reps and 4 sales managers. So I spent all of 2019 building that team. And then the fourth quarter of 2019, I transitioned to building the roofing division. And at that time, you know, we were operating roofing in all those different states. And, you know, I was basically working with a lot of different solar companies on their roofing contracts and stuff like that. So we got it good, or so I thought, passed it off to the COO to operate. Right. What I did not do was I did not work with the supplement team. Now, if you know insurance and the percentage supplements are of the overall of the job, it's a high percentage. It's a lot.
Yep.
So
were you supplementing back end or front end?
Back end.
Yeah. See, okay, that was a mistake I made, and I fixed that. Yeah.
And so we, the issue was it wasn't being done properly.
Right.
And that was my bad.
Yeah.
So I didn't spend the time. When you delegate something, you're supposed to get the team to 80% proficiency before you even think about passing it off.
Passing it on, yeah.
So I didn't. It's a trust but verify.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
In delegation, so that was the number one.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I mean, that makes 100% sense. I mean, that's a huge number because, like, I mean, what the file's 20-30%.
Correct.
Is supplements.
At least.
And so that means that you went from a 39-40% margin to a 18, maybe 20% margin. You can't run a fucking company on
for
a 20% margin.
7 months.
And on that size of business with that kind of overhead.
And with the sales reps just churning jobs.
Right.
So and most of our work was insurance work. Even though we're in retail markets, we're still doing insurance.
Doing insurance work. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
in Seattle and in Washington, Portland, Spokane, all those areas, it's still insurance work.
So that ended. You ended up closing that down.
Correct.
Right. And so real quick before we wrap up, I want to hear about the transition for you in your life from the identity of that.
Yeah.
Right. That was your kind of your identity a little bit. You had other stuff. You had the Murph, and you had, you know what I mean? Like you had a very wide range of identity, right? Like, I mean, people knew you for a lot of different things, but it was still your company.
Correct.
Right. It was still your company and your identity in that regard. But to have to, I mean, have the humility to be able to shut that down and then transition into a new path.
Right.
For the time being, at least, whatever, wherever it is that you want to end up. But tell me a little bit about that, about how that transition, how you went through that, and then where you're at today and where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, I really had to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Number one was owning the mistakes. I mean, knowing that, you're the leader of the company, ultimately everything falls on you. So what mistakes did you make? So there's been a lot of reflection on that. And then understanding, like, that really wasn't my passion. Like, if I was to be very, very frank, like, it just wasn't my passion.
Yeah, it was a business.
It was a business.
Yeah.
Now I enjoy it, and I'm good at it.
Yep.
Like I have the gifts of being able to run a business and numbers and all that kind of stuff. Yep. We were doing EOS. We started doing EOS in 2018. So we have
before EOS was cool.
Before it was even cool. Yeah. Like, so we were taking all the right steps. We had all the right things, and it's just not my thing.
Right.
I can do it.
Right. So now you're doing.
Now what I did was I had to sit down and do an exercise of understanding, like, what am I good at?
Right.
What am I passionate about?
Right.
What can I do to make money?
Right.
And what can I monetize? And then what does the world need? And so it's like the best blend of all of those things is where I need to be.
Yeah.
And so obviously I can make money doing a roofing company.
Right.
I'm good at it.
Yeah.
But it's not my passion.
Right.
And I think there's plenty of roofers.
There's something to that, man. Yeah. Like, find your fucking passion.
Yeah.
Figure out what it is, and then figure out how to monetize it so that you can continue with your passion.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's amazing. Last 2 minutes is 100% you.
Yeah.
And I want you to tell them what you want to leave them with. And also, I'll end it too with, I just want everybody to take the time and look Graham up, follow him, reach out to him. He's got great insights on a lot of shit. He's got a lot of different programs and things that are being launched right now. And I think that, if you're kind of on that precipice and you're looking for a little bit of foundation, you're looking for a little bit of, like, where do I go? Who am I?
Yeah. what
am I doing? Take the time. And I'll be honest, this is one of the first times I've ever actually said those words, because I don't fucking allow pitching on this show, but I really don't. Like, it irritates the shit out of me. But I think it's important for people to know that there are people out there that do want to help, right?
Yeah,
that do want to help. So last 2 minutes is yours.
Yeah. When I was doing that exercise, what I saw what the world needed was leaders. First of all, moms and dads need to be present for their kids. Yeah. And, you do a great job of that, by the way.
Thank you.
And that's kind of where all this comes from, is looking back over the last 15 years. It's like, man, I skipped over a lot of years of my kids. And now it's like, okay, I need to lead them properly.
Yeah.
I need to be there. I need to lead them properly. And so it all starts with self-leadership, leading yourself so that you can lead others effectively. And that's essentially what I do now, is build leaders, to put it simple.
Love that.
To make it simple. And so
Love that.
We'll have like courses and things like that we'll do online and virtual.
Yeah.
And then we also it all starts on the interior.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely it does. You got to look inside before we can look out. So
totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Graham, thanks for taking the time, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you're doing. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Look up my boy Graham. And the way we end every podcast, remember everybody, be authentic. Get the fuck out.
Authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Yeah. Swipes.